With AI, building a startup is easier than ever. But is it really? Let's have a look. So Anthropic dropped a nice resource. It's called the Founder's Playbook for building an AI native startup. And I've had a look at it. And I've been building startups for long enough. And I think there's legit value in this for people doing it for the first time, or people that have been around the block and need a fresh set of ideas on, for example, where to leverage AI within the sort of journey. But I also think some of it is obviously overhyped, as usual, with these kind of resources, very much to one-sided. And I want to look at kind of the good and the bad of it, see, where I agree and where I don't. So let's have a look. And for that, I prepared a very beautiful presentation using Claude, obviously. So let's have a look. It's a 36-page playbook. And essentially, we're looking at 4 stages: idea, MVP, launch, scale. And essentially, the core claim is that AI compresses quarters into weeks, and the founder now goes from being a builder to an orchestrator of agents. Some of it is evergreen advice, some of it is new. And what I agree with is that what they're saying is the failure mode is inverted. So it used to be a filter if people can build what they imagine. And it would come at a high cost, right? So if I wasn't a developer, I would have to hire a developer or like convince a developer on selling on my vision as an ideas person, or teach it to myself, each of them, different ways to do the same thing, each of them with different costs and benefits. But now this isn't an issue anymore. The founder shipped the prototype and treat that as validation. But it's also still true that conversations are what's important. Like the prototype has never been the issue, to at least find out if this is something valuable, or the MVP. It's always been conversations with people and asking the right questions. So now we basically have a research engine for confirmation bias. So essentially, I wouldn't use AI to ask and validate it and do research, but treat that as the starting point. And essentially what you can use AI for is you can argue with it and try to drill into, okay, why are you better than your competitor? What are your strengths that others aren't leveraging? Just because we can do mass research very fast, and we can basically more look for disconfirmation with AI than we would be able to do before. Essentially, tech debt that happens, and then this described as something we need to do now more than ever, is to pay attention, because AI tends to over-engineer and it tends to build too much rather than too little. And so that creates a lot of duplication. It's not following standard principles of like software engineering, like dry and whatnot. And essentially what it does every time, if you don't document architectural decisions, for example, it will reason from scratch how to build something, and it will end up, it's essentially like putting a new developer on your project every time, and they just decide, I'm used to these patterns of writing code, so I'm just going to bring my own patterns of writing code, and I'll just write the code this way, and it doesn't fit into the rest of the project at all, which I've seen if there is a lack of style guide or just misalignment, like how things are being done. And this is the same here. Like, we need to make sure that we cover this properly. Scope creep, everything is now so easy to do that we can build anything, or most things that have been built before. Like if I'm gonna try to build a rocket ship from scratch, probably not, but let's be honest, SaaS is done. Like, not that it's dying, but that it has been done before, and I think it's mostly a matter of like other functions than code. What's also what they're saying is like product market fit. If there is none, you will learn that faster, just because you can launch faster, and you can build faster. But again, this isn't the only way. Obviously, Anthropic is very much focusing on building, because that's what AI helps the most with, and maybe preparing validation conversations. Those have never been like the real bottleneck. The bottleneck have been like actual conversations with people and getting out of them what you need to know. And I think this is still true. So let's keep going. So now context is the moat, which is a shift from like code or technology that used to be. But there's also things where I disagree. So these were the things I agree with that were in the playbook. Where I disagree is like it says AI levels the playing field. So basically, it is true to some extent, but I think it's too simplistic. It's basically anyone can build, and that means everyone can be successful, which is true theoretically. But the reality is really that it kind of levels the field when it comes to building something, but not necessarily to winning or being successful as a founder, because everybody ships now. Distribution, domain expertise, and taste matter a lot more than it used to before, because we have more builders, we have more noise, and now attention is the bottleneck. And it used to always be the bottleneck, but it used to also be evenly distributed between the bottleneck of like building and selling. And now it's like building is 20%, 10%, 5% bottleneck, and then 95% will be selling it. The claim of quarters compressing into weeks, I think, is also not 100% accurate, just because the build time is shorter, but the market is still slow. Like, I'm selling a fucking enterprise SaaS, like it will still take 6 months, like it took 6 months half a year ago or 5 years ago. It just, none of that has changed. I think what has changed is that you can ship faster, and you can pivot faster, you can adapt faster, which obviously it's in itself valuable, but it's too simplistic to say, oh, you can just do everything within a week. Only the parts that you control, they have become faster, because you can leverage, and you can use leverage to move faster on those parts that you control. But everything else, everything that has to do with people, everything that's like never has been about efficiency, like building has been about efficiency, and people have never been about efficiency, just because that's just not how they work. So this hasn't really changed at all. So, take it with a grain of salt. Workflow lock-in. So basically it says deep integrations make full scale to switch, but I think the same agents that build your product, they can also build vibe code shit for customers, which is the whole kind of SaaS is dying narrative, which I don't fully buy into, but it's also just something that you have to consider if you're building something. Like, if you can build in a day, and then someone else can also build in a day, and they might not need your solution. So AI kind of cuts switching costs in both directions. And I think one thing to think about is like, what are the new kind of modes of AI, which, for example, one is like a proprietary data set. So if you can build that through product usage, or through whatever other means, whatever secret you have that no one else has, which has always been a thing, like what is your unique advantage, then you should definitely tap into that, and you shouldn't rely as much on like workflow lock-in effects. Essentially, always remember who's talking. So basically, each stage of the product is kind of tied to their product, obviously. So it's just also sales material. I mean, obviously they want more people use AI, which is fine, but it's also just like they're a shovel seller, so they're going to sell shovels, use AI for everything, and their incentive isn't your strategy. So you always have to question, where does that information come from? But that doesn't make it not valuable. It makes it more, you have to discern more, but it doesn't mean that it's completely wrong. And I think a lot of it is noise as well. And I think what my take is that the excuse not to at least get to an MVP as an ideas guy is kind of dead. Like, I've met as a technical person by trade, and I'm more a product manager now and whatever, but doesn't really matter, I would say. I've met so many non-technical people being like, I just need someone to build this, and I just have this amazing idea, and I just need someone to build it, and if I can get someone to build it, we'll be fucking billionaires. And obviously it's bullshit 99.99999% of the time. But essentially, that isn't an excuse anymore, because it's a good filter of agency. Like, does someone have agency? Does someone just go out and do shit, or are they just talking? Because it is possible. I wouldn't necessarily build like a full-scale production app. Not like I would be able to do it myself as like an engineer background with AI, not writing any code, but I wouldn't trust a non-technical person to create a fully scalable app by themselves with AI, but they can build an MVP. They can show what they're actually trying to achieve. Essentially, it doesn't just empower idea people, but it also kind of exposes the bad ones. And I think when you find a good one, then it's maybe time to partner up. And who should go alone? Because they're saying like one person founder company, AI native, we don't need so many people anymore. And I think the best person is kind of still a senior technology person, like someone with a technology background, because they can catch when an agent does something dumb. They can catch, hopefully, biases easier. But essentially, for everyone else, I would say a team of two is still best. So you have one builder and one that sells, or both in one. Ideally, the builder can also sell. And it's the whole kind of like Y Combinator mantra or whatever. And this is the kind of founder that YC has always been screening for, or they have mostly been screening for like a team of co-founders, really. None of that has changed. I think selling has just become even more important. But again, like a senior developer, if they leverage AI, they can be really good at like judging. It's judgment. And this is it. My next slide. Execution is commoditized, judgment is the job. So essentially the bottleneck is no longer what you build, it's kind of what you choose to build. And that part was never automatable because it has a lot to do with having conversations, probing the market. So I think it's just same old. But obviously these tools, if used properly, can get you there faster. They can get you to learning faster, which really is the goal, but they can get you to success faster, because to be successful, you need to deal with people, at least as of right now. Maybe once we have agents talking to agents, negotiating pricing, and everything is agent first, maybe then you don't need to talk to people. You just need to be good in how to talk to agents. But it's not here. That reality isn't here yet. I think it will take some time. So it's good to think agent first or have that in mind, but ultimately you're still selling to people as of right now. And so it's just anything is a tool, and you just need to get better at wielding the tool. I mean, that's it. And I think just better at tool selection and better at doing the right thing at the right time. And I think this is what it's all about. But if this stuff sounds interesting to you, feel free to subscribe below, and I'll see you in the next video. Cheers.